Pink Cloud 56. Well, as I could say, which I will say, this is about you stop people in their tracks with what you figure out. I stop people before they get on the tracks so they can figure out for themselves. Pretty much I get information before anybody else does. You know, when people say like, you put two and two together, well, they've already experienced what they've experienced, so they've put more than two and two together, really. Or less than, because they let things happen too. That's what, when people say you stop people in their tracks, yeah, that's fine, perfectly fine, but you've allowed them to go on the tracks. That's the problem. I think that's one of the issues that I've seen within this whole thing, is that a lot of people just allow things to happen, and they really don't understand why they allowed it. And that's why a lot of people keep on repeating the same things again and again and again and again and again, is because they've allowed people on the tracks that unjustly treat them. Whether it's this doesn't have to be about relationship, but it starts with that. It starts with that, it starts with how people treat you. It starts with the things I've talked about before, which is about family, how they can mistreat you just because you're dependent on them. Anybody can mistreat you because you're dependent on them. And if you allow that mistreatment, being dependent on people is not a bad thing. So that's why when I look at people, I figure it out way before, because I don't even need to be a step ahead or 5 steps ahead or put two and two together. It's more about how you treat what I am right now. Like if you were to say, oh, you live with your mom? Oh, you're dependent. Yeah, but if you truly want me to be independent, what do you care about? You care about the money. Oh, he's independent? He lives on his own? Well, what are you thinking about? Are you thinking about me, or are you thinking about the fact that I can pay my own bills on my own without anybody else? There you go. That's what you're thinking about. You're thinking about the money. That's why, it's the old saying, I'd rather you take me now in the position I'm in, because how would you know you'd take me in another way, honestly? Would you? Probably not. You would take me based on what? Based on the impression you got of other things, other people, the way things are, the way things were, the way things should be. But that doesn't matter. It's what you think of me. It's the old saying of what I just meant. You stop people in the tracks with what you figure out. But guess what? It's not about what you figure out. It's what you figure out about somebody else. That's why I said I stop people in the tracks before they get to the tracks, so they can figure out for themselves. Most of the time they don't want to, and that's why they leave. That's why I don't have friendships anymore. It's not because I distinctly did it on purpose for them to learn something. In fact, I learned what they're supposed to learn. So maybe I'm supposed to learn that. Hey, wait a minute, this sounds like something they were supposed to learn. But I learned it. I mean, it's not bad, it's just kind of strange. Oh, hey, I learned something that somebody else was supposed to know. This is kind of weird, and it is. When I look at it, when I think about it, I'm like, this is kind of strange that I've learned what they're supposed to learn. Maybe I'm using it, maybe I'm using it to my advantage to learn something different than what I usually, learn. Which is nice, it's nice to have that, because it's that my tracks are so strong now, the tracks that I'm on are so strong. Because people make fun of that all the time. Like, oh, you live with your mom, you live like this, blah, blah, blah. But the first thing I think about is, well, that means that you're after money. You're not after me. And I could understand that to an extent, but what were you after when you were in a relationship before, if you have a kid, for example? Or if you have this, for example, or that, for example? It's nice to put your kids first, but what are you thinking about for yourself? That's what matters too. If you have kids, for example, and if you don't, well, what are you putting first? Let me see. Because it's, you don't just get somebody directly, distinctly, hey, they live like this, let's get them. That doesn't mean much. Let's see what else you got. It really is like figuring out these things, because I'm telling you to figure out for yourself what you want. Or does that matter? And I think that's the way I kind of look at it, where it's more about, you stop people in their tracks. That's great. But have you allowed them to make tracks? Because if you allow them to make tracks and you have to stop them in their tracks, something wrong there. It kind of means that you've kind of set yourself up to put yourself in that situation. and you've had to stop it. It's good that you have, and I don't hold that against people, and I think a lot of people hold that against themselves. Like, it's the same reason why, like, you know, to me it's great if you can experience something and have a good experience with it. But if you have to use it to set yourself up, to put yourself down in another situation where somebody else hasn't experienced as much as you have, so now you put yourself down because, hey, they haven't experienced that. No, stop right there. You know? But a lot of people have that in them, you know, the negative aspect of things. But it's not really about the negative aspect, it's that you don't want to learn something new. That's the difference. It's not about being negative, it's that you don't want to learn something different. You want to keep learning the same things? Is that the point? Is that the point of your experiences? That you want to learn the same exact thing that you did last time? That means you're going to keep on doing it. That you don't want to change. You know? And it's not about you changing for somebody else, it's about you changing for yourself. Because everyone thinks they change for somebody else. You know, oh, I could change him, I could change him. Great reason to get in a relationship right there. Every woman, you know, thinks that way. I could change the guy. Do you love the guy? Or do you want to change him? I mean, it's pretty sad if the only thing that makes you emphasis into being in the relationship is to change the person. That sounds like a wonderful relationship right there. You know? And it's the old dogmatic beliefs. You know, you have to, you know, breaking the dogma in family, and all about that is what is expected to be true. You know, the barriers to cross can come from scientific method, but also to concentrate on what else matters besides being right. Which is what science, math, religion, they're all about being right. All these systems built around us, they're all about being right. We're right, we're right, we're right, we're right. I'm wrong. You know, there you go. I'm wrong. But I'm wrong because I'm right. I'm right because I'm wrong. There you go. I have every single instinctual method and it doesn't create anything. Nothing. Because you don't use yours. All you say is I have to concentrate and get this right. Concentrate and get this right. This is the mathematical equation. This is the scientific proof. This is this is the religious institution. So what? We failed. We've used these dogmatic beliefs and we're not breaking the dogma. The dogma. In family and what is expected. And what is expected? You know, that's why people say like, oh, the old family morals, there's no more morals anymore. Well, look what morals did. We have to break those dogmas because all the things that it created, you may look at now and say it's nice, but we found out the truth, buddy. Even if it's nice and sloppily said. You know, we didn't learn when we were young. We were growing up to believe in this atmosphere of what truth is. And then, oh, wait, assembly, we have to tell you the truth here. They weren't as nice as we brought them up to be when we were doing the Pledge of Allegiance when we were young. Or anything else for that matter. That means I can't believe in these institutions anymore. They lied. They lied impressively. And I throw their throats behind my graves. Because their words speak nothing to me anymore. That's the problem. That's why you have to break the dogmas, because if they're going to lie to us like that, you're a cheapskate and you believe the politics in the words of such politics in the politics of politics. Politically or not, this isn't politically charged. This is truth charged. This is passion charged. This is instinct charged. Because there's nothing else to give you that truly can give you anything. No time suppressant. Nothing can make you patient enough to say that this is going to change. Because it was set up from a flailing system such as the Roman Empire that took everything from their religion based on what other religions were in the past. They just pieced it together and gave you a full meal of said structures that were already done before. That's where I am. That's why the horn beeps. Because the horn is beeping to this truth. And saying, God damn. When you hear somebody's horn, remember that. Remember what I just said. Because nothing can change where we are right now except talking ourselves out of these things now. Surrendering to all this. Because this is like the present consciousness. The present consciousness is, let me have some fun here. Let my mind go everywhere. Consciousness unaware. But consciousness everywhere. And that's why a lot of people say, no, you have to make the first step. You have to make the first move. No, you don't. If you truly, honestly believe that, then you're scapegoating yourself to believe in the only way you could fight traditional values is to become lesbian, gay. No, it's not. The only way to fight traditional values is to break from dogmas, dogmatic beliefs. Dogmatic beliefs that are principles. If you truly, honestly are that way, then you should be that way. Don't make your dogmatic belief throw you back and throw you into something else. If you believe in something, you believe it. If something truly means something to you, has value to you, if somebody has value to you, then you know what you have to do. But if you can't, or if you're holding yourself back, that happens. But it doesn't mean that the person doesn't matter. In fact, you can't really tell yourself anything more if it hasn't worked. You can't tell the other person more if it hasn't worked. You know, if it's one-sided, as with I've experienced in the time, and as I've said today at work, for example, when I was talking to Maribel, and I said that, hey, you have to, she said, you have to read more about what a person's feelings are. No, I don't. No, I don't. Because if the person has inevitably brought up every single situation, clean security, waxing, everything, no discretion. There's no discretion that I have to make. We're already there. If we want to partake in each other, it'll come in all forms. In pursuit of, no excellence, no perfection, no ugliness, no prettiness. It's just there. And it's not an appearance of like, oh, it's going to just come together and work fine. No, there's no prim and standard for this. But that's the whole point. That's why you can't do things in a certain order. You can't sweep and mop and expect everything to come back in its form and never be dirty again. So it's the same reason that people say, oh, they have expectations for you. Then I'm not going to do anything. You have expectations for me. Why should I be there? That's a dogmatic belief. Expectations? Hope? Fear? No, thank you. Take that out your rear. Take that out your rear. You don't need me here. And that's the whole thing about concentration on what else matters besides being right. I don't have to be right. In fact, I don't want to be a man. I want to be a better man. And that's not going to come from me acting like them or me not acting like them. I am acting like them, and I'm not acting like them by doing it. By going all the way with what I am, I'm not being anybody. And that's why I'm spending my time not really concentrating or talking with anybody. I've initiated so many times. What else can I do? If you honestly want to take the time to be there, you'll be there. No one else will be there for you. No one else will call you out, name you, label you. If they criticize you, that's all they can do in their lives. That's all they're living with. They're living with the negativity of no change. The negativity of no change. That's what you live with. The negativity of no change. And that's why people say, I always make the negative side of it. Yeah, it's because you don't want to learn anything new in life. That means you want to keep making those same things again and again. You want to keep doing the same solutions again and again. You don't want to change it. Because then at least you'll never be disappointed with something else that's different. But it's not about, it's the fact that you're concentrating on disappointment of what already happened. And that's all you're concentrating on. You're not looking at the benefits of what happened. The excellence. The things that you saw that were there. That mattered. Now all you see is the things that don't matter. Even in the new things. Oh, this is what don't matter here. Oh, great apologetic approach. You're really apologetic about yourself. That's why I'm very apologetic about my past. Because there's nothing else to do with it. Except enjoy it. Enjoy the failure. Enjoy the success. You break from the dogmatic views by not allowing them to enter you. And I think that's what really is the beauty of it, really. It's the same reason why I wouldn't have anybody, emotions, how people say emotions eat you up. I let them eat me up. So you can see them all. You have to see them all. Why would I want to be with a person that doesn't accept all my emotions? That doesn't make much sense. Hey Marcello, take away those emotions right there. Yeah, those ones right there. No, thank you. This isn't, as stubborn as that sounds, it's not a stubbornness. If I have emotions, it means we have to collect them together. I understand certain times we have to take care of ourselves and fix ourselves inside. But that doesn't mean that we can't bring them outside. In fact, that means the opposite. We have to bring them outside. But we have to be responsible for that too. I'm responsible for my emotions when I bring them out. Here they are. Are you? Am I telling you to be responsible for my feelings? No. Are you making yourself at risk if you start bringing out other things? If you start saying, hey, I want to see about this. If you start testing the ground, that's sometimes insecurity. If you're insecure about something, you'll test the ground in a certain way. Sometimes you'll do it in a very hazardous way where you're upset, but you did it. No one else can be responsible for that. You didn't have to ask that. You didn't have to make yourself set up in a situation of science and math and testing the ground. It doesn't come from that. It comes from you. It comes from you alone. What you risk is what you take. And what you take is what you have to deal with to a certain extent. Now, I'm not saying you have to deal with the other person. You have to deal with yourself. And not you have to deal with anything outside of yourself. But you do have to deal with the responsibility of what you've done. If you don't, what's the point? Emotions eat you up. That's true. I let them eat me up so you can see them all. Because you got to see them all. You won't trust me if you won't see all my emotions. Here are my emotions. Here are my sensitivities. Here are my feelings. They eat me up all the time. Let me show you them. They're right here. I don't think it's prevalent that we have to understand what feelings mean. But if you don't want to experience them, what does it matter? Understanding them and putting yourself in a position of weakness or whatever, which a lot of people say, like emotions are weakness, feelings, sensitivities, they're all weaknesses. Good. Let them be weaknesses if they are. So what? What else can you say about them? You can't say much else once you do it. It's the old John Lennon thing, John Lennon, Yoko Ono, were naked on their first album. What else can you say about a person at that point? Nothing. Nothing. There's nothing else to say. It's not even about risking everything. It's not the all center point. It's not like, hey, this is it. It's not about that. That's the problem. That's how people view things. Not in a negative or a positive way. This is it. This is all you get. And then people are fascinated by the fact that what else can come from this. There's a lot that's coming from it, especially if you're going to view it like that. Especially if you're viewing it in that kind of timeline view of saying that this is it. Emotions may eat me up, but I want you to see them all because that's worth it. If you don't want to see my emotions or feel my emotions, and not in that way of like you need to feel everything about me, but in true natural surroundings, you would feel them, and you wouldn't want to experience anything less. Above it, there's so much, but it's up to the circumstance of your life. If you truly honestly believe, helping people for negative thoughts that can bring in people thinking that are better when you have helped others, selfish self-assessments. It's one of the things everybody does all the time. A lot of people do that, where you're helping people for the negative thoughts that can bring in, people thinking that are better. Hey, I helped this person. I'm better than them. Right? That doesn't mean you're better than them. I mean, that's even worse than somebody who's richer than you thinking they're better. The elites, the idea of that. I mean, selfish self-assessments is even worse. Like, hey, I help people, I'm better than them. Not even about money or donations, no. I'm talking about actually helping people individually in their life. Talking with people and saying, hey, I set a representative point right here. That makes me better than this person. No, it doesn't. It doesn't make you better. Did you ever use that information? Maybe you're just saying information, never used it. What's the point? Are you reading the catalog box? Are you reading the old cliche? If you're rendering a cliche obsolete, you've already done it. And that's the whole idea of you help people just to make yourself feel better? Well, what's the point? What do you get out of it? Besides making yourself feel better? Because at that point, you kind of have nothing else to say. You've you've kind of set yourself in a position to say you're better than a person because you've helped them. I mean, that doesn't really say much about you. In fact, that says the worst thing about you, because now you've basically shown your face by saying, hey, you know, it's the old idea of looking at it even like, you could look at how things went with Rodney King versus Kelly Thomas. There's no discretion anymore. That's what police say, you know, especially after what happened with Rodney King. Well, why shouldn't there be discretion? Rodney King is one person. I'm not putting him down or saying anything bad about him, but that's one person. If we're going to base our whole system off of one person, off of one event, off of one persecution, off of one action, what's the point of freedom? Freedom isn't about one thing. If it's about one thing, I'm making it clear that it's not. Pink Cloud Radio here, 56. I'm making it clear that it's not. There's nothing else left to consider in that. Once you have stabilized your life and said that, you know, one thing can show everything, it can't. It never can. No matter how much you've supposedly triggered the life that you lead, you've taken your life and just said, no, I don't need to worry about that. I don't need to worry about that person's life. Well, that's not freedom. You've now defined freedom as saying it's okay to not care about others too. Well, yeah. You don't have to care about others. That's true. But you have to make everybody represented. Not under one ontological premise. It has to come from everybody individually. But that's the thing about living in a society like this. All you need is to kill people, and they're gone. Their representation is gone. That's why we have the Senate, all this stuff. You just kill them. Titanic, they killed 3 people on the Titanic, and they were against certain things. Think about it. The idea of killing people is probably one of the highest structures of control. Make everybody's bid. That's why there's flat bids. That's why bids are flat. They may have a soft surface, but they're pretty flat. It's a flat line of structure to say that one thing can lead to everything, because it can't. It surely can't, you know. I'm not saying that the Constitution shouldn't be listened to and all that stuff. That's important. But it's important only if we make it important. It's not going to be important if we make selfish self-assessments and just say, hey, shut up. And I think that's what really happens there, is that we hogtie ourselves to just say, hey, instant gratification has its point. That's all we need. Instant gratification is a huge effect on relationships and all things. You know, wanting all things at once creates an answer for all things for you. It's just one immediate thing. But it changes. Now, it doesn't mean that it can't be scripted to fix. Because it can be. Because once you've shown that you just give in to instant gratification, you've shown what you're doing. You've shown what you've accepted forever. Until you elaborate that maybe that's not true. Maybe instant gratification isn't everything. As I could say, for an example of being in a bad relationship. You know, it doesn't mean you're always going to be. But if you've accepted the flaw of your character as an semblance of, I can accept any punishment. Don't need anything else. Don't need me here. Don't need that dog over there. Nothing. Don't need a cat. Don't need gardening. You don't need any hobbies or interest. Your instant gratification is your interest. That's all you need. You know, I'm not putting it down, but I am assembling the fact that instant gratification doesn't mean you're going to be happy forever, or you were happy back then even. Doesn't mean that even. You know, because instant gratification, it's a huge effect on a relationship and all things, wanting all things at once. But it also, you know, having that kind of thing. It's not even about wanting all things. Your instant gratification can be neediness that is, I'm not even going to say animalistic or uncivil or morally corrupt. Shut up about that. That doesn't mean that. All it means is that you've retracted to just say this is it. Full steam ahead for this alone. It can be great. But it can also be the end of you, because if you instantly gratified yourself in just saying, hey, this person pays attention, or this is what's happening here. Oh, hey, I like that here. The place has been, you put it in your stomach. You put it in your thoughts. You put it in your idea of what life is. It's the same idea of anyone saying, like, this is why I lost interest in you. Or saying that I don't know much about you. Well, if you lost interest in me because of what you don't know about me, you'd never really had interest in me in what you do know about me. What you do know about me has actually turned you off from me. And I think that's what a lot of people try to avoid. They try to avoid saying bad things about people. Yet they'll say it behind their back, or they'll say it, polar opposites. It's the instant gratification of wanting things and creating an answer for all things. By having that instant gratification, you've now created an answer for all things. Everything. By one thing alone. By the instant gratification of grabbing that one note. That one thing that matters. You've now created an assemblage of what you think of everything. And to me, that's like credit card debt. It's going to keep on piling up. You'll keep on paying. And I think that's what really is the maximum velocity of things. Is using an idea like money and assembling it to everything. Saying that everything is money. Time is money. No, time is still time. No matter how much you try to say time is money, it's not. It never can be money. Time is made of the same manipulated form of numbers and mathematics that is developed in our time-space continuum forever. Until we destroy it and see it as nothing. Because time is just intervals. Intervals that we would experience whether or not we had math or anything else. Whether or not we had day and night come no matter if we had time. If we hadn't had time, still day and night would come. If we need to assemble a being tied down, because that's what it is. Time, being tied down is only true if you're not truly in love in a relationship. And I think that's what really creates a relationship for a lot of people. Is being tied down. When people say, "Oh, you're tied down," are they making fun of it? And if they're making fun of it, they're kind of looking at it like, in that jokey way of like, that's not true love then. And it isn't. It isn't. Truly, it's not. It's basically assembling one part and saying, hey, being tied down is only true if you're not truly in love with that person in the relationship. Like, I wouldn't see it as being tied down. I don't think I ever have, And that's the thing about it. Like, a relationship ending doesn't mean that the person felt tied down. Like, I think in a lot of ways, people would assume that kind of character about somebody. Like, hey, why'd you end the relationship? Why didn't you try? Because they didn't. That's my answer. But that's my answer in a very plentiful way. They didn't need to try. That's the thing. If they expected something of me, a miracle, for that matter, then they're living in hope and fear. I have no hope and fear. I love you, dear. What else can matter here? And I'm not trying to rhyme there. I'm just telling you that you're the ugly demeanor of quicksand that you want me to save you from. Quicksand never changes into something else. It's always going to be quicksand. It's always going to be quicksand. And we all fall into quicksand. But if you just want to move around and keep trying to get out of it, you're just going to get deeper into it. And I think that's what happens with a lot of people. They accept the idea of being tied down. And that's it. Hey, if it doesn't work out, I'm not even going to try anymore. So you truly will leave all those people alone that you could have had a good relationship with. That one person alone that you truly loved, you're going to let go of because being tied down is easier. And if it doesn't work out, I'll just be alone. So you're going to risk all that because you didn't want to be with the right person from the start. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to do things the way I wanted to do them. I wanted to live in that instant gratification. Can't you see I wanted to? Why couldn't you have lived that with me? Because you're not like him. You're not like her. But I never was. I mean, you shouldn't feel like you If you truly love that person, you should put it all there. Put it all there. Because you're not going to have it with me. Because that's what matters. That's what's always going to matter. Instant gratification is, if you're going to fill your head with those lies and believe them, of instant gratification, of just dealing with things because, hey, you don't want to go out. You don't want to do this. Maybe I don't have the funds. Maybe you don't have the time to deal with that. That this world is made of money. But we don't have to be made of money in thoughts and mind to create our relationship. If our relationship matters, there is no monotony. Our monotony is never there. If we're bored, we're not bored. If we're lazy, we're never lazy. If we're monotonous, we're never monotonous. I don't feel monotonous doing this. But I certainly see the scale of where people can think of it. Hey, how can this guy keep doing this? Because it doesn't matter. And it does. Because there's no escape from this serene rap structure. And there is. That's all. It's not it is about a choice. About hate and love. You want to hate or you want to love? If you want to hate the person you love, you don't truly want to love them. You don't truly love them, in fact. You just say you do. You're the one true love in my life, but I can't be with you. You're going to accept that foretold equation of everything. I got to be with the person I love, and you know that. Brothers McMullen was a good example of that. And I think it always has been, for me. But I do think that what we've anticipated about our lives and what things have come about, a lot of people say, well, you can't change how life is. So what? Do you need to? There are certain things we can't accomplish, but if that includes what we sacrifice to be treated like, there are certain things in our personal lives, not institutions, not the world. I'm not talking about that. That stuff, I don't think that we should live in the fragment of, well, everybody's going to get their own at one time. That's not true. Because if we accept that everybody's going to get theirs, then all we're going to do is get our own. Let our asses get kicked every single day, if that's all we accept. Because that's negativity and balancing ourselves. Saying that, oh, I'm going to live in imbalance because at some point I'll be balanced by somebody else. Nobody else is going to do that for you, baby. No one else. But that's not the point of a good relationship even. A good relationship is trying to develop the idea of a best friendship and seeing the idea of what can build from there. If you don't want to, if you hesitate 1 second to want to anticipate the kind of relationship you could have in a friendship with that person, if you just want to make fun of that, then what's the point? Where does the idea of, valuing that person come into place? It won't come into place if you don't value them from the start. If you do, and you see the barrier between the wall, saying anything doesn't matter, then I don't know. I've been in that foot for so many times. I've been in those footsteps so many damn times. It's hard to understand that being myself, saying anything, to a certain extent, pays off with little, valueless things by saying that only if you fight for me. Only if you fight for me. There's the answer all the time. Only if you fight for me. Only if you fight for me. No. Can't fight for you. But I don't want you to fight for you either. I want you to be you. Don't need to fight for yourself. You are yourself. No matter how much everything else attached to us drives us crazy. You are yourself. How many years of saying that will it matter to you? It won't. It won't if you keep on saying, I can't be myself, everything around me. You at one point must have been yourself. With all those things around you, if you could understand yourself, you could be yourself. If you could even say that everything around me, I can't be myself, you can be yourself actually. You just don't want to. You accept the acknowledgement that something else is going to step on you. Go ahead, step on me. But you're not going to be in my life. That's what I've heard about people like being more aggressive now. People have always been aggressive about what they want in a relationship or just sex or whatever you want to call it. Anything you want to take a tap at, go ahead, tap it. You ain't gonna tap me. You can attack me, but you ain't gonna tap me. You can attack me, call me names. Hey, have a good time with that. But you're calling me names because you can't have me. I don't accept that. You're gonna make a barrier from the start, you ain't gonna have me. I don't make barriers. I make love. Whether it's passion-filled or electricity that builds every single time we see each other, or even as a friendship, that love is still there and caring, and the best friendship is developed. And the idea of what we have together should matter in the pursuit of who we are. If it doesn't, then we don't have anybody. We don't have anybody with each other. We don't have anybody. Anybody that is buddied with each other. I can't value you without you valuing you. You know, emotions. People say I have to be careful with them. Not at all, actually. Most people hate emotions, so it's easy to deal with emotions when you have accepted them. I mean, literally, most people hate emotions. So, when I hear people say that, I think it's funny. Like, hey, you know, you have to be careful with emotions. No, I don't. What do I have to be careful about? No one likes emotions. You know, that means no one will like me. Because I do. Hey, I'm very emotional. But I run away. You know, I've listened to myself cry so many times over past things, being sensitive about things. I've learned a lot. You know, my crying is trying now. I've learned to just try now. No matter what. You know, even if I fail. You know, but I have learned another thing, that inside of that, I've seen that, hey, the risk all point won't matter until you want to risk. Until I see that you want to risk. Not that you have to do anything, but that you will. If you don't, what's the point? You've shown that you don't want to. No risk all point, no nothing. No nothing. And I think that's what emotions really have a pride with. People have their pride to say, I'm not emotional, I'm strong. Doesn't make you strong. Doesn't make you strong. It makes you the weakest person on earth. It makes you so weak, as this race is of humans that have turned to be. Cavemen were stronger. Cavemen were stronger. Not because they built their own things, but that they dealt with everything. On their own. No one else did it for them. Whether you say you're independent, oh, your structure is so built, look at you. You pay those bills. You pay your bills to somebody else who gives you the electricity. You didn't do it yourself. So on and so forth. All these bills. You look so independent. You're not. You're very dependent. Very dependent. Well, that's different. We have no choice there. In fact, you're building up suppression, no points, to say that you're independent, and you're not. Now, I'm not trying to say that one is valueless than the other. You got to find your own partner for that. To live in that sequester of what you don't want to develop in yourself. And you'll find that. There are a lot of people out there who don't want to develop themselves. Don't worry, you'll find a great partner for that. And I'm not being sarcastic about it. Don't worry. Let go of the person you truly can develop and grow with. You know, don't worry about that. Let it go. Don't be with that person because you don't want to develop. You don't want to learn anything. You don't want to change. You want to be negative. But you want to be negative because the solution is always the same. 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 And that's lovely. You can find that. Confide in that. Confide and have no armor. Have no sense. But you don't need armor if you truly want to defend yourself. No defense needed. No armor needed. Nothing. Love. Find a century of it. Because right there is the proof. If you truly will find the person you love, you have to show your emotions. You have to not be afraid of them. You have to basically say it. I am afraid. I'm scared. But if I wasn't scared, I wouldn't be in love with you. Just say it out loud. For yourself. For nobody else. Don't need to scream out the window. Like in the movie Network, which I love. You just have to say it for yourself. Bellowing lungs. Bellowing lungs. Nothing is more valued than that. You know, people say I have to be careful. No, that's the one thing you don't have to be careful with that one thing. All you have to do is never institute what somebody else says on you. And that's what people have done. All this stuff are ideas from somebody else. Everything here is. Pink Cloud Radio is not about being original. You know, whether people say, "Oh, he's just trying to be original. He's so much trying to just create something new, and he's just blah 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 on and on about something, where it's about like you have to carefully have something that's developed within the world of the instantaneous, the instant gratification. So I have to make a movie or a book or a story that elaborates on your realism, your realistic value of life, through Jurassic Park's eyes, not through what Japan's creation of monster movies were created in realism, where you had just a pontificating point about life that you have to really create, unlike a realistic image of what we think is real, where it may be just realism too. We don't know what dinosaurs look like, yet Jurassic Park can have an evidence of such through bone structures and evidence of such through historical records that are buried in land that is billions of years old. It dried up. Dust is death. How do we know that even stands for what happened? Nothing does. Nothing. Appearance is exemplary what we don't want. We find what we want in appearance. So many people say, base things off appearance, base things on what people look like. We find what we want in appearance. That's the difference. That's why we have to talk to people. That's why a lot of people don't. They say, oh, I've lost a lot of friends through my Facebook, through my MySpace, through all these things that are based on the century of appearance. That you look at one thing, the distinct feature of this person scares me. You've now created it. You've created the inevitable cause and reason to end something. Appearance, this is not something I want here. And that's where we begin in this whole thing, really. When we begin at the end of what you end. Well, I don't really like what he says here, or she says here, something along those lines. Because they don't really know what we stand by. And they don't really have anything for me to aggressively agree with. But they never will. That's why I stop people before they get to the tracks. I mean, going back to the beginning of this, that's all I'm doing. I'm rotating. I'm rotating my tire. But I'm not rotating anything. Just the beginning and the end of my life. The alpha and the omega. I'm so disgustingly dirty and so emotionally pretty. I don't know. I don't know what can amass this indigenous life that is human, that is animal. Talk down, talk up, breathe, sigh of relief, work, unworked, personal, finding something there. And that's where I am. In this Pink Cloud 56, I'm not impressed, I'm not tack-turned and putting you into a puzzle. I've made this quiet this time, for a reason. Because there's one structure that I'm figuring out here. What this Pink Cloud Radio means is the emotions are strong. The emotions are strong, they're passion. But they're nothing, if not uplifted. So I need you to understand that. As with my interviews recently, that my emotions are as full of as a shark tank, but they can't mean anything if they're not easily dealt with. They're easy to deal with, emotions, when you have accepted them. Really, this is very complicated, but it's not. It's the easiest thing ever, and that's where no smug smile, no idea of being better than anybody, but you can put two and two together. I can't. I can't take that long. It's not about, naivete is a strength. But my only strength is just here. And I know that it's not something that is, hey, I can't waste my time on that. I gotta go with my instant gratification. Okay, I understand. And the emotions can't count for anything. Yeah, of course not. That's the thing about, finding love. finding anything that matters. There are a lot of people who are going to say it doesn't matter. There you go. And that's why a lot of people are pissed off and don't want it and don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with the fact that not everybody's going to accept it. Who cares? You accept it. And you're going to find that person that does. This is it. It's not about finding the one. It's about finding the person that doesn't treat you like no one. That doesn't treat you like a punching bag. This is the beginning of the end. And it's here. This is the end of the beginning. This is the journey that you can't make until you don't take anything in that's brought you down. Sadness is a realization of what we want. But happiness is what we are and who we are to somebody else as much as ourselves. Take care. Love.